Non-Americans have read it. What scandal is happening in your country? Sudan here. And the term third world country just doesn't cover how much of a show we're in. Currently the number one guy in command is an illiterate mercenary who got paid years ago by the former government by giving him an actual mountain of gold. He mined it for almost 10 years and now he has an army of mercenaries roaming the city like it's theirs. Not so much a scandal. But we're just waiting for the bloodbath to start. Kenya. President admitted on radio that roughly $20,000. Czech Republic. Our government got vaccines without syringes. Also most of our politicians are corrupt as well and we had 3 ministers of health reselected in the last year. Also, our Premier Andre Babi is making sure that a lot of funding goes to a corporation called Agrofert which is destroying the landscape. Because he has a lot of stock in it. South Africa. Turns out that after initial discussions with Pfizer about a vaccine in July, our government just failed to respond to follow-ups until the end of the year. So now there's no COVID vaccine ordered. And no money to buy vaccine with. So taxes may need to be raised. South Korean area Seoul recently had a child abuse case surface where a 1-year-old girl was adopted by a couple who brutally beat her to death. The president, in his haste to try and settle the public, has suggested that adopted children should go through a trial period rather than being permanently adopted from the first place. In Czech Republic, our Prime Minister Andre Babi is one of the richest people in Czech Republic and former STB, secret police during communism in Czechoslovakia, agent. His company is getting millions in grants from European Union, which other companies won't get easily. And he found and exploited mistake in our tax system. So Czech Prime Minister doesn't pay taxes, gets unfair grants and also lies frequently. During COVID-19 pandemic, Minister of Healthcare left his position. They say because he couldn't handle his situation. But it was mainly because he didn't agree with Prime Minister. Second Minister of Healthcare had to leave because he went to restaurant during lockdown and got caught by paparazzi. And the third one is making stupid decisions. At this point nobody believes Czech government. Edit 1. His voting group is mostly seniors and old people. Who vote him? Because he literally gives money of taxpayers to them. In Serbia, it was found out that an actor who had his own acting academy for kids paid at least 5 of them when they were the age of 15-17. So it's mostly about that on the news and of course the vaccines. Italy. My understanding is that Italian politics are chaos on a regular basis. An Icelandic fishing company did some shady business in Namibia. Now Namibia wants the guys extradited and shot. And a Norwegian bank stopped doing business with that company. Denmark. We're showing a children's show about a guy with an extremely long penis that keeps getting him in trouble. Shall I answer chronologically? Or alphabetically? Mozambique here. We have a war in a province called Cabo Delgado because some terrorists want oil. Norway. An ice cream company changed their logo. Greece. High-ranking official of the Olympic national sailing team is accused of sexually abusing multiple young female athletes. In New Zealand we have not so much a scandal, but a crisis that nobody in government seems to want to solve. House prices have been skyrocketing out of control for years, almost doubling since 2014, creating a divide between people wanting to buy a home and those with multiple homes using them as a source of income. Rent is crazy too, which makes saving up for a home more and more difficult, especially in cities like Auckland and Wellington. Because it would unsettle a number of voters for any party, they all seem to kind of dither over any meaningful action, making it a really big problem that no one has a solution for. Sort of famous singer in my country touched a boy's dong in the middle of a concert. His manager just said that it was the way they showed affection and respect in his village. Obviously jurisdiction is absolute garbage here, so he's free doing whatever he wants. And now he was caught with a 12-year-old. Corrupt mayor. who was shot and lived, dies from COVID. His mafia are postponing the new election so they can steal more money. All the banks are tied up in a real estate scam and are massively over-leveraged and could go bust. Edit. So basically the entire world is a show. In Honduras, the president is a drug lord bigger than Pablo. And not only is he 2 terms past what the law says a president should serve. Netherlands. A lot of people had been scammed with child allowance benefit, not sure how it's called in English, by the government. They had to pay it back in large amounts several years ago. Some people lost their homes with it and stuff. And now it becomes clear that did have the rights to that money. Guatemala. Our president is a tyrant. His political party has been funded by the army. So they invest more into stupid random stuff for the army and don't even have the money to buy the vaccine for their people. Also, there are more than 160 000 quetzals, $20 000 missing, which were supposed to be used for equipment for COVID-19. Corrupt politicians fill their pockets and leave people unattended. Recently changed the name of dragon fruit to camelum, which is Sanskrit for lotus. They say it is because it looks like a lotus, and apparently calling a fruit dragon is inappropriate. SMH. Edit 1. I know we have more pressing and far more serious matters ongoing in my country, but the purpose of this was to just show the ridiculousness of media. That this thing became headline instead of the important issues. Edit 2. Can't believe dragon fruit brought me my first awards, no thank you kind strangers. Spain. Politicians getting vaccinated before doctors, nurses, teachers and other essential workers. After reading all of the replies, can we just agree the world is led by politics? Here in Panama we somehow only ended up with 12k vaccines when we were promised 40k. Government blamed Pfizer, which is horse. Government also decided to implement curfews and are only allowing people to go out on certain days based on gender, with men getting 2 days and women getting 3, with weekends being total lockdown. The government also decided $100 a month is good enough for a family to survive on, and people are red. In case you're wondering, stuff in this country is expensive. Sometimes more than in the States. We were supposed to have billions in relief, but most of it mysteriously vanished. Someone threw a chewing gum on the floor. Made national news. Holland here. Tax scandals. Brazil. I'm from the Amazon. And we have no more oxygen cylinders available for people with COVID. Making every single case potentially fatal. The fact our government makes it harder for us doesn't help. I'm living in Canada today, thankfully. But I have family members and friends who died because of that. I had the virus myself. Here in Mexico we have a president that literally told us that the way to stop COVID-19 is to buy stickers of Jesus and tell it to go away. Mexico. Our president decided to give vaccines to poorer countries. Does he think we're rich? Believe it or not. In the realm of countries, Mexico is middle class. Out of about 200 countries. Hong Kong. Can't speak out about the government or you'll disappear to China. Can't peacefully protest either or have certain words displayed on your shirt. Not allowed to vote for your political candidates as they'll get rounded up and arrested. Edit. This was all done under the national security law, which basically gives China sweeping power over HK and has turned HK into a police state. Snitching on anyone breaking the NSL is encouraged. There's even a hotline and email. There was a WhatsApp number, but it may have been taken down already. Kid of the leading politician scored himself an approx $130k scholarship for some British school. Supposedly everybody can get this scholarship, but it seems like he is the only one who got this high amount of cash out of it. Poland. TV star, probably our pet beauty contestant. The Chinese are mining bitcoins in my county, so there was a national scale blackout. Group of old women got arrested for bringing cupcakes with Dix v Guinness on them for a bachelorette party. Mother and baby homes report. The single most shameful stain on our country. The state. The church and society not only allowed it but actively participated. Philippines. There's so many ideas where to start. The government decided to buy a more expensive and less effective vaccine from the Chinese. At a higher cost compared to other countries. There were better deals offered as well that they didn't take. Allegedly. The pricing of the main vaccine they chose either meant that the Chinese sold it at a higher price to our country or there's some hidden taxing going on. The government's response to the controversy is literally them saying stop questioning the government. The pricing of pork is sky high and only going higher because of a sickness that came from China. And no, it's not COVID, that infects pigs. Government's solution is to import pork from China. With all these things going on, the government also wants to focus on inserting military presence inside government-funded universities that are quite known for being vocally against the administration. Because of potential drugs and terrorists. And not because they're against free speech. I'm pretty sure there's a whole lot of other up things going on, but those are the things off the top of my head. Denmark. Most famous is a kids show about a man with the world's largest penis. That sort of does what it wants. On a more serious note, our former Minister for Immigration, Integration and Housing will be put on trial by the Court of Impeachment after having illegally forced fugitive couples to be separated when the woman was considered underage. Then, almost, if I remember correctly, all mink in the country have been killed to stop the spread of mutated corona. Which wasn't done legally either. Plus, many of the dead mink were buried to get rid of them. But now they have found that it may affect our drinking water. The French government tried to make it illegal to post online with malicious intent photos and videos of police brutality. Man. That hit a wall. Fast. Predictably. A senior classmate, female 16, got up-head by a guy, 22. They are trying to reduce the guy's age and increase the girl's age so that the guy doesn't get any punishment. For the record, the guy has other criminal records. But the police doesn't give a. The guy's parents are politically powerful people, so he is getting away with it. In my country, pretty much all women think it is a natural thing that at one point in their lives, they are going to get sexually harassed. The society seems to be completely okay with that. Yay. Israel. The ultra-Orthodox, among others, sector continuously refuses to cooperate with COVID instructions. But hold way too much power to have any real consequences to their actions. Other than an extremely high rate of sick and dead. Meanwhile, hospitals, that were continuously starved by right-wing neo-lib policies, are collapsing under the load. One middle-aged man died a few days ago in one of the larger hospitals when his breathing tube disconnected. But the staff was way too busy to notice until it was too late. Another hospital had to refuse taking in any new patients other than COVID ones for a few hours because they couldn't keep up the pace. Going on a fourth round of elections in less than 2 years, which is mostly a sham. And no one's genuinely attempting to hide it anymore. Now that the moderate right party Blue and White dissolved, Netanyahu has no real rivals racing against him. If anyone had hoped for change, it's pretty clear no change is coming anytime soon. Portuguese government sent a false CV to the European Union. Turkey. The list would take pages. So just writing about the COVID related ones here. 1. The health minister has been giving daily reports on COVID, which he recently admitted turned out to be a big flood of lies. Turns out he was giving the number of hospitalized cases, not those who tested positive. We are also sure the number of deaths they announce every day is just a fraction of the actual number. 2. Since they don't have a stable economy, the govt, or should I say the president, His Holiness cannot impose a 4-week lockout. Thus, we are locked out at the weekends and after 21:00 every weekday as if the virus is taking evenings and weekends off. 3. We ended up with Chinese coronavac vaccine by a company that is known to have bribed its way into approval of its drugs in recent past. No AstraZeneca, BioNTech or Moderna for us. I'd go on with others, but this should cover most of the COVID related ones. As the saying goes, geography is your destiny sometimes. Nigerian here, need I say more? Australia is killing their own wildlife and most of their nature in general by selling out to the logging and mining industry, instead of going for renewables. Despite being one of the countries most suitable for both hydro and solar plants. Scotland. Semicolon. Austria. Bunch of mayors and vice mayors etc. of various towns have skipped the queue for COVID vaccinations and taken doses that were meant for elderly risk group patients. Portugal. Currently the country with the most COVID cases per million of inhabitants globally. To go along with this, there's presidential elections next week, and some of the candidates have been involved in political propaganda that doesn't respect the current laws in place for the pandemic. The healthcare system has collapsed. People are dying in ambulances on their way to hospitals, etc. It's becoming a tragedy real quick. A mother and son was killed here by a policeman with anger issues only a month ago, and everyone's protesting against police brutality. He was called to handle a noise complaint, if I recall correctly, and things somehow turn. He was angry. And that anger was additionally fueled by his teenage daughter, who alongside him would slap the old woman, 60 years old more or less. He eventually pulled out his gun and shot both of them in the head, right in front of his daughter. More recently, a flight stewardess was killed after being allegedly upped at a hotel. I forget where she was at the time. But everybody was outraged, and the police have gone as far as publicizing blatant threats to whoever may be the perpetrator. Excuse any grammar mistakes. The Netherlands. Cabinet fell. Apparently a fraud detecting system that handles child aid from the government labeled innocent parents as frauds and financially ruined them with a huge fine. The fourth election in 2 years. Registered sign Zico is like the Comedy Central of countries. Our president decided to set free the ex-secretary of defense in less than a week investigation. Which BTW the D had investigate him for like 10 years I believe. He have been protecting drug cartels and registered sign Zico. Colombia. The government sucks and the health system collapsed. But a lot of idiots go out and make parties without any restrictions, making even worse the situation. India. Everything is a scandal in my country. Starting from farming laws to marriage laws for interreligious marriages. The British government doing anything. Greetings from Brazil. Spain. Not a scandal, but there's been a huge explosion in Madrid caused by natural gas in a priest residency. We're still in shock, though it happened 3 hours ago. 2 dead people have been found. Others disappeared. Good news is that no kids were in the playground of the school next to the residency. Seeing this post, I realized it's not just America that's it up. It's everywhere. The fact the president is bullcupping over the states for buying international vaccines because he doesn't want to pay with federal money. And it's not US. In my country, the governing party is doing pretty good in giving us hell. Politicians, man. All they could think of is how to make money by constantly eyeing the people up. Are you from everywhere? Philippines has far too many to list. It's been an avalanche of bad news since last year. Well, since 2016, but 2020-21 turned it up to 11. The main 3 as of this week could be 115 billion pesos, 312. 3 million US dollars have been embezzled from the National Health Service, meant to be a stepping stone towards universal health care. This news actually broke last year, but so far jack has been done about it. The government even raised the amount we have to pay into it this year. 2 of all the available COVID vaccines, the national government chose to order the most expensive, least effective type, Sinovac Sinopharm. These cost up to 5 times more than the cheaper, more reliable vaccines. We're 99% sure someone is getting kickbacks from this. 3. The military recently and likely invalidly, cancelled an agreement barring the army and police from entering the grounds of the National University without first informing the school administration. Not much happened here really. Last year a woman got arrested for setting her husband's car on fire, writing threatening letters to their friends and blaming it all on a theatre group. South Africa. A 16-year-old disabled kid was shot and killed by the police and it's barely in the news. The police hose down disabled people waiting for grants and it's barely in the news. The army killed innocent people during lockdowns and it's barely in the news. Where is the outrage? George Floyd protests shook America, but here it seems like lives don't matter. No one's lives matter here. It's shameful. America is going through a tough time, but they are still a great nation that reacts to injustice. That means there is hope. Here. A little article and then we move on. This is something I've heard in the news. I live in Israel. Our prime minister is supposed to go to court and someone tried to sabotage it so he'd win. Britain. Boris still hasn't figured out how a comb works. Canada. Our government told us to practice social distancing even at Christmas. The majority of people chose not to celebrate or did so only with a minimal amount of visitors from a different household. We found out various different members of government, from municipal, provincial and federal, had taken a Christmas holiday trip to Hawaii or the Bahamas or Mexico. Since nothing is going on, we decide to get indignant about this. How dare they risk the rest of the population with more cases? How dare they buy plane tickets that were on the free market and therefore also available for me to buy? How dare they go to Hawaii when my family couldn't have Christmas dinner? Scandal. 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 Boris Johnson. Nuff said. I'll raise you. Missing and murdered Indigenous women across our nation are not receiving justice. They are missing and at the bottom priority for authority around here. Often they are not found due to our CMP apathy. Canada. Yesterday there was the first appearance in court to try to stop a mandatory buyback of some 1,500 plus different models of firearms. While on the surface it's easy to say guns bad. Go and take aim, it's not really that simple. First, the process was initiated by what amounts to an executive order with no debate and proper process in parliament. Second, the court case that has been brought before the government goes much more deep and strikes at the heart of property rights in the country and the government's ability to, with the stroke of a pen, decree that anything that is yours is now theirs. Whether that be guns, land, or any other property you may own with no required compensation. French. Here the government voted a law that forbids citizens from showing the face of cops in video footage or photos on social media. Some say Putin is having a homosexual affair with a zoo. Australian. In my birth country there's currently a pretty violent evil regime in total control over the population and is so in power the leader of the group made himself emperor essentially. You may have heard of it. Starts with a C and rhymes with Bina. Canada. Ridiculously racist treatment of Indigenous people. Also Quebec. Having a curfew with fines up to 6k not excluding homeless people. The virus originated in America. Guess where I come from? Billions and billions of taxpayers' money went on PPE and systems for COVID that didn't work. The majority of the companies that got contracts had zero experience doing what they were contracted to do, so no surprise as to why it didn't work out. Some got additional government contracts after failing. All of these companies have people in high positions that are related to friends of or are donors of people in important government positions. This is well known. But the people have zero power to do anything about it. Hey, we've just claimed our democracy and sovereignty back. Even though all this shows that it's completely meaningless anyway. India. The govt collected $1.27 billion in the name of COVID relief fund. No one knows what happened to this money and govt has used loopholes in the law. So nobody can ask about it. Ironically the fund is called the PM Cares Fund. Germany. Where do I even start? Germany here. Right-wing people already tried to storm our parliament back in 2020. Here in the Philippines, a policeman killed an unarmed and defenseless old lady and her son. Just because of a stupid thing. Brazil. Our president is trying to boycott COVID vaccination for two main motives. The main local one is being developed by one of his political adversaries with support of a Chinese lab, which he publicly despises. Because his followers like to think of him as anti-commie. Even if China is still Brazil's main commercial partner. And second, because some of his followers are anti-vax, so he is weaving at them. Some suspect he also is trying to delay vaccination on purpose so COVID can kill more of our poor people. Unemployment rates are skyrocketing. And since he does not invest on the internal market to generate jobs for those people, God forbid him of making such a commie move. He hopes to drop these rates by lowering the population overall. Oh, did I mention his sons are involved in stealing money from office, hate forums and fake news, and possibly the murder of a political adversary. But as we say in Brazil, nada acontece. Fijoda. Boris Johnson is still Prime Minister. Spain. We just discovered that our Emirate King have been using lots of our money to gift it to their lovers during a lot of years. Also spending it in cravings like privated jets just for one day. He was going to be arrested but he ruined the way to Arabia's auditor, where he has many friends. PD.